Loxton.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
We have a quorum, so we'll go on to the next item, number 3, approval of minutes of regular meeting held on 12th of November 2024.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call roll, please.
Parker.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Loxton.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to kind of change the arrangement a little bit here. We're going to go on down to number 5 and let the people from the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission talk.
All right. I think everyone has the email or has seen the email at some point in time from me. We were up here, is it about 4 months ago? I think was the first time we came to talk about CIP. Maybe it was longer than that. Maybe it was more like 6 or 7. I know this is about my 3rd or 4th time to come to Alva. But talking about CIP and some of the new grant programs that we have and some of the available funding that we have and how we can take advantage of that and also change and progress the Alva Airport in the right direction for the next, many decades to come. So a couple of projects that we've recently added to the game since we've traditionally been in the airport investment ball game. Hangars is something that we're investing in these days. That's something that typically prior to about 3 years ago we've never invested in. Fuel systems, again, something we've never really invested in prior to about 3 years ago. Terminal buildings, we have invested in, but at a much reduced pace. I think from 2008 to 2021, we had invested in a total of 9 new terminal buildings across the state. And since 2021, that number is in the low teens. So 9 terminal buildings over the course of about 13 years. And now we're 13, 14 terminal buildings over the course of about 4 years. Another thing that we're focusing on is infrastructure development for we'll call them development areas on an airport. So greenfield spaces to support additional aviation businesses or growing existing aviation businesses. So that's a combination of things. It could be actually acquiring the property that sits adjacent to the airport to help the airport. Could be bringing utilities to that property. Obviously, we're not going to necessarily do a full utility development, but bringing utilities to that area. A lot of our airports don't have the luxury of Alva, that you guys are kind of right on the edge of the city, so you have utilities out here. A lot of our airports are 2, 3, sometimes 5 miles away from town, and utilities aren't nearby. And then one of the other things that we focus on is bringing obviously surface transportation and air transportation to that development area. So bringing in an entrance road if there wasn't one, bringing in a taxi lane if there wasn't one. Everybody can say that they have a greenfield spot for someone to go build a new hangar or a new business, but if we can get the site more prepared, that hopefully gives your community and therefore the state a leg up when it comes to recruiting new aviation companies. And then another thing that we're just now starting on is trying to, along with our terminal building program, get more people to come out to the airport by thinking about things like playground materials and playground equipment and areas where people can come plane watch and plane spot to kind of bring back the good old days. We're about to approve a first project at our commission meeting on Wednesday about supporting a plane spotting park at the Tulsa International Airport. So, we have these new areas of funding and new pots of money that we're trying to get invested out into the communities across Oklahoma. And, obviously Alva being an important segment of Northwest Oklahoma, along with Enid and Woodward, want to try and get you guys to take advantage of some of those different pots of money that we have available to us. And so just a couple of different resources that we have talked about is the hangars, whether that's for your caliber airport, like a large executive style hangar, which could be a combination of both base storage, transient storage, or potentially an aviation business, recruiting an aviation business. We Would certainly go fund larger box hangers here just in general for storage. We'd also fund smaller box hangers in here just for storage, maybe individual box hangers. Probably what we wouldn't do is invest in T-hangers. We typically try and get our T-hangers for the smaller caliber airports, and that's just, when it comes right down to it, T-hangers are not the best bang for your buck ROI-wise from a investment portfolio. It costs about $1 million to put the T-hanger unit in itself, plus about another $1 million to $2 million for the pavement around it, depending on how much pavement has to go around the T-hanger. If you look at what you can build from that perspective and what revenue that brings in compared to 5 box hangers and the amount that goes into those 5 box hangers, you have a lot less pavement associated with 5 box hangers. In theory, those 5 box hangers would bring in more or equal amount of revenue as to a 10-unit T-hanger. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. It's also, T-hanger is great for smaller airports because it's the most economical, efficient use of space. And so when you have a shorter, smaller land mass at a small airport, and you're trying to squeeze in as much development as possible, that the T-hanger obviously uses the most resources, uses the fewest resources possible from a land development standpoint. Terminal building, you have a nice terminal building here. This was kind of the one of the I won't say epitomes of Northwest Oklahoma, but just kind of what people looked at. They said, hey, Alva's got a nice terminal building. Enid had old, Woodward had old, Weatherford's was old. It was all, old terminal buildings. Guyman, I think, was the newest terminal building in Northwest Oklahoma. And that's changed over the last years. I'm sure I think some of you have participated or seen some of the terminal buildings we've got, but we've got a new terminal building in Enid, just constructed within the last 6-7 years. New terminal at Weatherford was constructed several years back. Elk City's is going up right now. Woodward is in construction at the moment. We've been talking to Guyman about renovating their terminal and trying to grow it a little bit. And so that was one of the thoughts we had here was, trying to expand on this terminal building, renovate what you have, add some architectural elements to the exterior of the terminal, concept being the terminal is your first entrance door to the community from an economic development standpoint. It's the thing that people see when they hop off the airplane. It also is a source of pride for the community. And then trying to get the public to come out to the airport on a regular routine basis. We talked about utilities, trying to get some utilities out here. From what I understand, everything's on the other side of the highway, and so trying to get the utilities to this side of the highway, both to serve your current tenants, but also potentially some of that industrial park, greenfield development as well, to hopefully maybe get you guys some businesses recruited out here. Obviously supporting your fuel system right now. I think I see the construction lights blinking there through the window. And then, the other thing that we've talked about that I know is a little bit controversial is trying to figure out how to change the ingress egress for the air side, land side of the airport, and that would kind of go hand in hand with reforming the terminal building and trying to parlay this into a true terminal, a true traditional terminal where you have the public enter from the east, aviators enter from the west. Obviously, they mingle in the terminal building, but try and ensure that we have a positive flow of people from one side to the other, and that you're not accidentally happening to allow someone out on the airfield that's not supposed to be out there. So that was kind of the litany of projects. Obviously, the funding matches of those are various in range. The terminal building's 50-50 proposition, dollar for dollar. Our hangar program, particularly the grant program, which seems to be what everybody wants to take advantage of these days, is 60-40. It's 40% being state, 60% being local. Of course, of that 60, 55% can come from federal sources if you have NPE or BIL money available. We don't allow that same proposition on the terminal building. We do the same thing for fuel. We bring 50% to fuel. You could do 50% local funds or 45% FA funds for the fuel systems. The utilities is just your standard 95-5 local ratio, 5% being the local match. The fencing project, the parking lot project, those traditional kind of what we call civil site infrastructure projects are just your standard 95-5 propositions. And so that's kind of the litany of range of projects that we've talked about here. It doesn't have to happen all at once, but what I would say is while we have sold the legislature a really good story and they believe in aerospace with the amount of investment that they've given us over the last handful of years, I can't tell you with a straight face that will always be there indefinitely. We know how state budget cycles go, and we're hopeful that the state budget is going to do better overall with the growth of the aerospace industry, but you just never know what's around the corner. And so what I'm encouraging all these airports to do is if you have the money available to you today, take advantage of the programs in the near term, in the next handful of years. Don't try and kick the can down the road to that 7 or 8 or 9 year mark if we can go do it in that 1, 2, 3, or 4 year mark. And so trying to figure out how to best streamline all these projects and obviously answer any questions that you might have because we want to do them all. And if we can strategize and prioritize and figure out what projects need to go in what years to utilize the resources as best as possible, that's kind of what I wanted to come out and talk to you guys today and see how we can best move forward together.
Well, in your assessment, do you have a prioritization in mind of what you, in your opinion, you see as number 1 project, number 2 project, number 3 project that is?
I mean, I'd all go do it tomorrow if we could, but I would say the first priority is what you guys have identified, and that is the hangar project. That's going to bring you ROI in terms of revenue first and foremost. And so I would say that the hangar would probably be number 1, and then I'd follow shortly behind on that with the terminal and kind of the access entrance issues as number 2, followed by utilities as number 3. And so number 2 would be the big one because that involves a multi-phase element being the terminal, the parking lot, the fencing, and then obviously follow that on with the utilities piece or the site development piece. And I say site development utilities kind of combination. My initial thought was utilities, but if you guys have an area where you want to go build a taxi lane that's a greenfield development area, and we need to bring a roadway to help bring a roadway in, we can talk about all those as well. I think your fuel's doing good, your electrical project's doing good, or your electrical systems are doing good, your runway's in pretty good shape. Obviously, do we have a date yet on when the parallel is going to start?
We don't have a date. It can start any time now.
Okay. Obviously, that's going to be fixed sometime next year, whenever the contractor gets starting. So that's what I'd say I'd rank my priorities. Number 1, hangar. 2 would be the terminal area here, and then 3 would be the utilities and site development piece in terms of the priorities that I would suggest.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Based on what you said. When we had our quote town hall meeting here based on the fencing, which is a hot topic.
Yes.
I've been informed, I'm sure. Our common engineer made the statement that until the fencing was dealt with, that no other projects would be considered here for financing. Is that no longer the case?
Well, what I would say is it's not that the fence project has to happen first, but we need some buy-in from the city that we will do the fence project to allow the hangar project to go forward. So it's not that, okay, first project we have to do is fence. We can slate fence as the second project or the third project, but we have to have commitment to we'll call it the slate of projects to be able to move the hangar forward. So that's kind of what your engineer was probably trying to tell you, is that the fencing, the access issue is a critical safety issue, and as long as we can identify that it's going to be done in XYZ year, then we can move forward with the hangar project. The reason why the hangar project is such a priority is that you have expiring money that's going to be used towards that, and it's not money that can be transferred somewhere else. It's use it or lose it money. And so with the FY25 grant cycle impending upon us, we want to get that done as soon as we can, get that under design. However, yes, we would, if the city was adamant that they did not want to move forward with the fencing project, then we'd have to have a hard conversation as to whether or not the hangar goes forward at all.
Okay.
So, and I understand I had it was 2, maybe 3 phone calls before the town hall, and sad I couldn't make it. I was at a different city council meeting at that point in time. But at the end of the day, there's not an airport the caliber of Alva that has the access issue that I can think of across Oklahoma. There are other smaller airports that have free reign access from, you know, the land side to the air side. But in terms of your caliber of airport, in terms of the fact that you have a highway right there, I think the smaller airports, while they have landside to airside access, it's off of a county road or a city street, not necessarily a regularly used state highway. And so ensuring that somebody doesn't accidentally, which has happened at other airports, turn off the highway and end up on your runway, which there was, of course, this is a different situation, but when Okima's brand new airport was built, they closed a county road, and we probably got a call a week for at least a year while we tried to correct the Google issue that Google was turning people down the airport road and trying to get them to go across the runway to connect to the county road that was broken. And, you know, fortunately, at that time, the airport was new. They didn't have any based aircraft. We didn't have any incidents. But my fear is, you know, the challenge, this is what I told one of the gentlemen that called me, I can't remember who it was, the fear of, well, it hasn't happened before, it won't happen again, that concept has changed in my mind. I'm sure each one of you have heard about what's happened to Broken Bow. And in my wildest dreams, I never would have imagined that would have happened. And so we are putting a grander focus on aviation safety from a non-participant and a participant situation. And that's put a little bit grander of a desire to correct this issue at Alva. Because I've known about this issue at Alva since I started at the agency in 2009. And I was a little bit under the impression of, yeah, you know, it'll never happen. Nothing will ever happen. Well, now that Broken Bow's happened, we're starting to give a renewed focus on some of those aviation safety issues that we may have just simply said, well, it's never happened before, it'll never happen again. And so that's why the attention, from our side, that's why it's gotten so hot lately, is because of that Broken Bow and because of several other situations that we've learned about in our region of aviation safety issues. Those were all fortunately near misses. That was obviously actually a tragedy that was a hit. So
I would like to second your reasoning on the fence, because when I first started, I never really thought about a fence or gate being an issue or even needing one, but as our traffic gets heavier, steadier, I've seen several people that have nothing to do with aviation. An RV comes in and pulls and sits there forever, and then does a wide U-turn on our apron, and then turns and goes out. Just random people, as a trailer comes in and parks over here, tightens their straps, goes out. So I, for one, am pretty excited about, you know, the fence and gate.
Would you be opposed if we changed the order to the priority?
what do you mean?
Like,
Well, I don't know that this is actually a priority list. I think this is just
like move the hangar farther down the list and move something in front of the hangar?
well, the challenge, so if you wanted to move something in front of the hangar, it would have to use your federal funds. And because again, like I said, you know, the federal money you got is part of the COVID relief program, or the BIL program, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. You got that money every year for 5 years. We're in year 4 right now, and the money has a 4-year life. If you don't use that money this year, it gets lost. Next year, you'll gain another year of money because that's the 5th year, but then you'll also be losing potentially that second year of money. The problem is, to minimize the local match, you'll want to use your federal funds on the hangar, because if you used your federal funds on a fence, or an entrance road or something like that, that's removing state money from the picture. That's not benefiting you. I am capped at 40% on the hangar. And so if we're trying to reduce the local share on your projects, if you look at the litany of projects that we have, the best spot for you to use your money is the hangar to reduce the amount of local money that's needed to be invested there. So that's why the hangar was first, and that's why all that federal money is going to the hangar so that it reduces the local share as much as possible. But yes, from a theoretical standpoint, you could use your federal money on any of these projects. Well, I say any of them. I don't think federal money would be used. I don't think federal money would go for utilities. It would go for a fence. It would go for a parking lot. Could be spent on the terminal building. Yes, could be spent on those items.
Now, on the hangar money, that's strictly just for the structure itself, or could that cover part of the ramp access to it?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the hangar was proposed kind of right here, due south of the terminal.
We had a couple of sites that we had
Okay.
tentatively looked at.
Nothing's been set.
Nothing's been set. So I think the large, maybe there was some other hangar size, but I think the large hangar had been kind of, the FBO was due south of this building, or at least that was one of the general ideas.
They came and did the boring.
The geotechnical bore on that, yeah.
So they've already kind of.
So they've already kind of set that in sight. So,
Let's put this, we've made no firm decision on a location.
okay. So, what was the question again? Back to.
If that 40% only covers the actual structure itself, or does it cover part of the ramp access?
Yeah, so it covers the ramp access too. Now, if it's, in this situation, there's not going to be a whole lot of ramp access from the edge of hangar to edge of apron. If there was going to be a bunch of pavement, like let's say, for example, we're building a brand new taxi lane and we're going to go put 6 50 by 50 hangars on it. We would then split out the taxi lane from the hangar piece to benefit you all. The taxi lane would be the 95.5. The hangars would be the 40/60. But in this case, because the pavement section is so small, there's no need to go split it out as to 95.5. And we're talking maybe a 30-foot or a 40-foot space between hangar door and your current apron edge. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But yes, typically
Because the plans that we drawn up and looked at had a significantly larger apron to it.
Oh, did it?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know where all this other's coming from, but that was never in our subcommittee discussion.
How far back was it being set from the apron?
We set it far enough back that we could actually pull the plane out of the hangar and not swallow up this existing ramp, particularly since we put the fuel station there.
Okay.
We wanted to be able to access. So
is it like 100 foot or?
Almost the same size square footage as the hangar itself.
Okay. So probably, because I think you guys were doing a 120 by 100, if I remember right. So about 100 foot. So yeah, I mean it's all part of the eligible project. How we split it up from a funding perspective kind of depends on how much pavement's going to be there. But yeah, pavement typically is that 95.5 proposition if we're doing a separate paving project and then a separate hangar project. So yeah.
So we have the ability to split it up however it's going to financially be most feasible.
Be beneficial, yeah. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think the city's executed a design contract for the hangar, have they not?
To
It's
get
not
the,
approved design.
well, started the process to get to going for the grant.
Okay.
So yeah.
The grant for the design?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's, at the end of the day, my recommendation to you is the best value for the city money is to keep that hangar as the top project going this year so that you can benefit from the most amount of state money possible, most amount of federal money possible, and the least amount of city money possible. Like I said, yes, you can switch it around and you could go do some other project with federal funds first, but then that would either increase your local funding at some point in time, or it would definitely increase your local funding at some point in time to do all the other projects if we waited on the hangar. What would be your top priority project?
Well, the fencing and terminal and changing the parking lots and things like that. Because
Okay.
that would get us set up for future expansion to, whether we put the hangar here or we put it down farther south. There's a place down here, it's already got a ramp to it, that would easily could be a better place than putting it out here and interrupting all of our parking and refueling.
I'll leave it to the, okay.
And that would leave this terminal area up here more for private parking and you were talking about a sightseeing area where people could sit and watch airplanes take off and land.
Mhm.
The big hangar is going to eliminate that area where it would be less publicly invited. So.
Okay.
But and then of course, our local funding is in a deteriorating mode.
Okay.
The reason we do have some cash in the bank,
Yep.
and that is 100% reliant on the oil well. And our oil well revenue is going down.
Okay.
The well is getting closer to the end of its life.
Completion, yeah.
And we're less than half of what our income off of that well is less than half of what I think it was budgeted for this year. So we don't have a way of generating excess funds. If we spend what we have in the bank, we have no way to replenish that.
Gotcha.
So we've got to be very conservative and make sure that we're using that dollar. If we use it now, are we going to be able to survive down the road without that in the bank? And it is making us some interest money. Is it making it? It may be making us more interest money than the big hangar would make us. That's calculations that I don't think have been made at this point.
Okay.
And I know we shouldn't be hoarding money in the bank, but we should be making a wise decision on what keeps this airport afloat and in operation for many years to come. And I'm not convinced that this big hangar will do that. I'm not convinced that it'll generate more revenue than, like I said, a T hangars or something. But because we're not a big airport. We don't have large corporations here. It's different when you get down to Sundance and Wiley. Of course, Sundance is a privately owned, but Wiley Post and Westheimer and Riverside at Tulsa and some of those, they have a waiting list of corporate operations there locally. Mm-hmm. We don't have that here. All we would get was just transit people that would want to spend a night or two, maybe.
Gotcha.
And as far as large corporations that have jets, we don't have any of those that own jets here. Well, like I say, you do at Altus and Weatherford and some of those other larger, more active airports.
No. The goal of building the large hangar is twofold. One, it gives you a large hangar to store both based aircraft and then transients as well. However, the real main goal behind that is if somebody comes, and this happens fairly regularly, somebody comes to the state, somebody comes to the community and says, hey, we have a business, we're interested in coming to Oklahoma, we need 10,000 square foot of hangar space. Right now, the reason why we're building a lot of these large hangars across the state is, yes, they're planned to store aircraft, but that's on a month-to-month, year-to-year basis. If you have a site-ready 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, 20,000 square foot hangar, and that project comes across our desk, right now Alva's out of contention because you have no hangar space. They want to be site movie ready space within 4 to 6 months is typically what we see. You can't build a hangar in that amount of time. So if we can develop that across the state. This isn't just an Alva situation. This is across, and we're building a large hangar in Woodward. We're building a large hangar in Weatherford, Bartlesville, Elk City. We've got a lot of large hangars going up. And the goal is, yes, to give you some near-term revenue to store airplanes in. But the long-term goal is to eventually get businesses into those hangars. And so that's the desire for the large hangar versus the T hangar. You can't go get a large business to go into a T hangar. It just won't work like that.
So what type of businesses are you seeing going into these large hangars?
All kinds, anything from a paint shop to a avionics shop, interior shop, traditional A&P, GA&P. We've got larger A&Ps that are working on King Airs and jets. Trying to think if we've experienced a little bit of the aircraft flip business has kind of become a big thing where people will buy an airplane, they will bring in the interior, they will essentially it's if you think about like a final assembly plant, they are a final assembly plant for a remodification of airplane. So they'll bring in an old beater, they'll spruce it up, put new avionics in it, new interiors. They may change some of the actual structure of the aircraft or put on new engines or something like that. Sometimes they don't, and then they'll flip it. And so we've seen that happen at several airports across the state. There's ag spraying businesses that are interested in large hangars. Obviously, that's just was a one-off case. Trying to think if we've had any other business interest. That's been mostly it. Just your general avionics, your interior shops, aircraft flipping, traditional A&P, both on the small GA all the way up to the business jet level of aircraft. Those are the businesses that we're thinking about. So it gives you the large hangar gives you the most versatility. You can go store 10 single engine airplanes in that large hangar. Yeah, it's a little bit complex, puts a little more burden on him to pull airplanes in and out. But then it gives you that option of potentially bringing in aviation business long term. Like I said, if we had 6 years ago the amount of hangars that we're going to have in 2 years built in the state, we would have been a lot better off in the economic development recruiting sphere, getting some of those companies to come to Oklahoma. It's just, at that point in time, all we had 6 years ago was, the occasional one-off hangar that just happened to be lucky where someone had left the hangar, a business had closed, or someone had passed away, or an aircraft had relocated and been sold. Now we can actually start planning for and saying we have more than just greenfield space available. We actually have an aviation hangar available. So that's why we're recommending the large hangar. And like I said, I would go right from large hangar into the terminal area improvements to help, And it's not that I don't think all of it can't fit right here. I think you could easily fit a large hangar with apron space in front of it, the terminal improvements, the parking lot, the fence, a place for people to gather, both interior and exterior, both inside a terminal building and outside the terminal building with a playground. I think you can fit all of that between what you have north and what you have south. So I don't think it's an if or there. It's not an if or and proposition. It's a how can you move all that and put it together. So I think it's all doable in this space right here by the existing terminal. It's just how do you lay that all out from a 2D element, and that was one of the things I recommended to Steve was I think the city, if the city's got interest in doing all of these projects over the next, we'll say 4 years. Let's give ourselves a 4-year window. The best way to go about doing it, we need to figure out what your desired budgets and investment dollars are. And yes, I agree wholeheartedly. It's important to ensure we have fiscal restraint. But I also don't know that we're going to be in the same position 10 years from now. And so I would say my recommendation to you, as it has been to all communities, is strike while the iron's hot. while the funds are out there and available, while the state's willing to invest, think of this as your one-time funding situation. We had a conversation with Elk City, which is Western Oklahoma, similar situation to you guys. I went and talked to their city manager. It was June of last year. I think it was June of 23. And, just started kind of broaching the subject about a terminal building. They had a terminal building that we weren't going to expand and remodel. It was a tear down and start fresh. And, I thought it was going to be a tough sell for Elk City. And as it turns out, they doubled down. They did terminal building and hangar and utilities and taxi lane. They did all 4 projects in a 18-month span. And the way that we sold it to their city council, myself and the city manager, was that these were one-time investment opportunities, that this was something that hopefully, fingers crossed, we wouldn't have to do for another 40 or 50 years, and after we're both long gone in our roles. So look at this as a one-time investment opportunity. The city had some reserves, the airport had some reserves, and they decided, we're gonna go ahead and go all in to do this. And what I would say is, yes, you need to keep some funding in the account to ensure you have long-term success, but that's also the goal of airports should be self-sustainability, not simply just having cash in the account to pay for the shortages. We need to think about long-term sustainability. So maybe there's a project for box hangars, or for small box hangars, in addition to the large box hangar. Maybe it's a dual-hatted project where we do the large box hangar this year, and then in year 4 we go do some small box hangars for individual aircraft storage. That obviously allows some of the lease revenue to recuperate. But the one thing I was telling Steve was we need to get a 2D and a 3D plan put together for what the art of the possible is, because the difference between a $750,000 and a $1.5 million terminal expansion and remodel project is significant. And especially because we've only been in the business of building new. We've been in the business of tearing down and building new, not expansions and remodels. So I think it would be a worthwhile investment to spend, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 to do some planning, to bring in the local architecture firm that you like. Which I can't remember who. There's someone that has a local architecture firm that they know. No? Not that you know of? Okay. Maybe it was a different community. I do get you guys confused sometimes.
My daughter works for MA Plus.
Okay. MA Plus Architecture?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there's the connection.
Yeah, they did the airport down at where what they've done.
Yeah. So my suggestion was, Park Hill and MA Plus get together, create some 3D renderings of what the terminal expansion could look like at the $750,000 level and the $1.5 million level, and then maybe like one in between. That way we can get a better understanding of because right now it's all just kind of throwing darts at dartboard. And we can say, we can do this for that, or we can do this for that. Well, we really don't know until we actually start putting pen to paper what some of these numbers are going to be. And so the sooner we can get that, little planning effort underway, the easier it's going to be for you guys and the city to make financial decisions for the terminal, for the layout of the parking lot and the fence lines and the entrance road and the site utilities and all that good stuff. So that would be my suggestion, is running in parallel with the hangar design, that you guys do a little bit of a planning. And again, it's not going to take very long, probably just a couple of months, so that we can figure all that out, and where that's going to look, where that's going to be, and what's the look and feel going to be. That way, as you guys are bidding out the hangar project, they can roll immediately into design of some of the other critical items like the fence, the parking lot, the terminal, all those sorts of things. So yes, I certainly am aware of the oil revenue challenges. There's a few airports like you that are lucky to have oil and gas revenues, and
Yeah,
it's certainly something to be cognizant of, that you don't want to simply spend all the cash at once. But I would also say that there's no guarantee that if you have the money sitting in the account 7 or 8 years from now and you want to go do, you know, some hangars or a terminal, that I'm going to have the money there to come match it. So that at that point it'd be 100% on you, and I would never be able to support you. So, and you know, 7, 8 years from now, we've seen what inflation's done in the last 7, 8 years. That the value of that dollar, I would say, the value of the dollar that you are saving today is nowhere outpacing inflation. I mean, I can tell you right now, the terminal building we're building at McAllister is probably equal to the terminal building we built at Grove. And I think most of you probably been to the Grove Airport and seen that terminal building. Nice little terminal. The terminal building in Grove was $1 million terminal building. I think it was maybe $1.2 million after all the engineering fees. Same terminal building in McAllister is like 2.6, 2.7. And those were only 7 years apart. So I can assure you that the money you're saving is not doubling in that same 7-year time period that inflation. Now again, that was the pandemic. Hopefully we don't have to deal with that level of inflation again, but we know costs continue to go up in construction. So that's what I would recommend to people is consider, yes, you have money in the account. Yes, I'm sure it's making some interest money, but consider the effect of the inflationary trend on what that dollar, what that purchasing power can be, because it's painful to see where construction has gone. Just in the last 7 years, it's even more painful to go back and look at 2001, 2002 and see what we could do for that. I mean, your brand new runway that was built, it was bid out in, was that 2009?
something like that,
Something like that.
2008, 2009.
We're about to build a brand new, hopefully, build a brand new 5,000-foot greenfield runway in southeast Oklahoma. And I don't even want to begin to think about what that comparison is going to look like from what you guys had to pay for yours. It's going to be painful.
So of the completed large hangars that you have across the state, how many is used for storage right now, and how many house businesses? Approximately.
So the only large hangar that we actually have finished is Thomas. And it has several helicopters in it right now. They actually had a business on the hook, and that fell through. Thomas is the only one. Ardmore's is about to be done, and they're starting to advertise for a tenant right now. They built a 120 by 120 with office space adjoining it. Thomas, I think, was 100 by 70, or maybe it was a 90 by 80, somewhere in there. But everything else is currently under construction. So Weatherford, Elk City, Woodward, Pryor, Westheimer, Bartlesville hasn't been bid out yet.
Are they all doing roughly the same 12,000 square foot?
Well, 12,000 is the magic number to avoid fire suppression, so that's why we kind of limit ourselves to 12,000. I know Weatherford's doing 12,000. Thomas did their 100 by 70 because I think that was the max they could fit between the taxiway and the roadway.
Did you say, and I missed it, but did you say about what those projects are spending?
The pricing on those projects? I can get you that. I think Elk City's 150 by 100 was 1.8, 1.9 million. Weatherford's, I think, was 1.3 or 4 million. Westheimer was 200 by 100, so I couldn't, and that had a lot of other ancillary stuff in it. So I couldn't think of what that. Paul's Valley's is completed. Paul's Valley's the first one to complete. That was 100 by 100, and they've got 2 corporate jets, a helicopter in that hangar right now.
Leased by one company, or that's?
Yeah, one company.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was a plan. So that was the first ever hangar we bid out, and the first ever hangar we finished. And it was, there was a tenant that had a 1 jet in one hangar, and they were wanting to add a second jet to the mix, and so but the second jet couldn't fit in any of the hangars, so it was bid anticipating that jet. So they combined the jets and then had a helicopter based in there. So, and that was a flow-through hangar, a double-doored hangar for future ease of access if they ever get a company in there to be able to flow aircraft in and out.
What's driving the boom for the need for these large hangars?
So obviously aviation businesses are taking off, and I would say that there's a significant drive out from the coasts of the country because of pricing, because of regulations, because of workforce, just the cost of doing business, the cost of living. And so aviation as a whole, especially in we'll call it the small to medium-sized companies, so from a 10-person shop to maybe a couple 100-person shop, they are starting to realize if they're going to continue being successful in the aviation industry, they're going to have to find a new market. And so you're seeing a lot of this drive, a lot of the proposals and a lot of the companies that Commerce is visiting with are coming from those higher cost of doing business states. We've also conversely had conversations with a lot of folks in the Dallas metro that the price of aviation, just storage in the Dallas metro, is just phenomenal right now. In fact, one of the companies that Ardmore was talking to that they're hoping maybe is one of the tenants to be interested in their hangar, was talking about how even at the price Ardmore was offering, that was still 50%, sometimes 60, 70% cheaper than what they would be able to do in rent in the Dallas market. And, it isn't anything for a business jet to fly from Dallas to Ardmore to operate there. And same thing, even Wichita is same thing. We've had several companies that are looking to either grow out of the Wichita market or relocate out of the Wichita market because of how expensive hangar prices are, just based on the local aviation economy there. And we've had several of those conversations with those companies. And so it's everybody is trying to get to the ever ranging bottom dollar, and we're happy to have them come to Oklahoma. Yes, we still have to have a decent hangar rate of $3, $4, $5 a square foot, but it's not $8, $10, $12, $15, $20 a square foot that you're seeing in some of these other markets across the country. And so the goal is to get these larger hangars built here in Oklahoma so that we can receive some of these companies and get some of these companies here. And, at the end of the day, I'm also not going to be disappointed if we don't steal some business jet activity from outside of Oklahoma either. I got people in Ardmore, people in Durant that are based there but operate out of Dallas, because it's cheaper to base there and operate out of Dallas than be based in Dallas and operate out of Dallas. I'll take the fuel money, I'll take the based aircraft in Oklahoma compared to that. So.
It's the smallest box hangar that you consider to be useful for commercial use like that.
Commercial use?
Well, what would be the smallest one that you would consider to be acceptable?
Really, I've had people say that they could do a business out of a 75 by 75 hangar, but it all depends on the business. It's really based on the business structure that you guys want to have and try and recruit. 75 by 75, you could put several airplanes in there. You could have a nice small GA, A&P shop in a 75 by 75 hangar. And conversely, you could put a decent-sized business jet in 75 by 75. Chickasha built 2 75 by 75 hangars. They're also now looking at building a large 12,000 square foot hangar as well to replace one of their old World War II hangars. The smallest hangar, box hangar, that you'd ever want to build for just individual storage would be like a 48 by 40. That is kind of minimum. Gets all your single engine aircraft. May get a couple light twins. Probably the better option would be a set of 50 by 50s. That would get all your singles and some light twins and a little bit of flexibility. If you wanted to get an individual box hangar that could house 2 airplanes, you probably have to go to like that 55 by 55 or 60 by 60 size hangar. You could get two single engine airplanes in there finagled pretty easily. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. Like if you're talking about going back and doing some individual box hangers in the future, I'd recommend some 50 by 50s. That obviously wouldn't be for business. That would just be for aircraft storage. But a business, it all depends on what kind of business you're trying to attract. And that's kind of the magic number is 12,000 square feet, because that is, once you get above 12,000 square feet, you start getting fire suppression. Sprinklers isn't that big of a deal. If you go to a 15,000 square foot hangar, on a multi-million-dollar, $2.5, $3 million hangar, depending on how high the door is, you may be talking, $300,000 or $400,000 extra dollars to sprinkle it. The biggest cost of sprinkling is if you don't have the water pressure to the site. That's the biggest cost. Sprinkling, what you try not to do is avoid at all costs is foam. Foam is a $1.5 million period end of story. And so that's why 12,000 is kind of become the magic number. Is it gets us under that fire suppression requirement. We don't have to sprinkle it. We don't have to foam it. Solves a lot of our challenges. Keeps our costs low. So
I'm just trying to do simple math. If I just split this out into maybe 4 projects, and $4 million is probably not enough, but just for the bullet points that are on this page, if you figure $1 million each, it looks like, if we got all the federal funding for the hangar program, I couldn't remember what you said, if federal would possibly be available with the terminal, or is that a no?
Well, so the federal is available for the terminal, but it doesn't supplant your local match like it does on the hangar program.
Okay.
So our terminal is a pure dollar for dollar. We bring $1 to the table, you bring $1 to the table. In the hangar program, we bring 40%, you bring 60%, but if you have federal money available, you could reduce your local match down to 5%, which is the minimum.
So we could, if we were looking at $4 million worth of projects, $1 million each on these, and that's just throwing numbers out
rough
there.
number,
I don't know, it's arbitrary, but if that's what we were looking at, $4 million worth of projects for $650,000 based on the way the funding could be laid out here. 650 up to 1.2 looks like, depending on whether we got the FAA on the hangar program. I think we've got some opportunity to sharpen our pencils and tell our engineer to come up with plans that fit in our budget. And we can decide how much we want our local match to be, and kind of make our plans accordingly. Clearly, we don't know what costs are going to be till bids go out and all that kind of thing, but they're doing a lot of projects around the state where they've got a pretty good handle on what we should be able to expect when things do go out for bid. Things aren't jumping up in cost like they were, 2 and 3 years ago.
The hangar, we can almost guarantee with the price. I say guarantee. We can get within 10% of what the price is going to be on the hangar. The biggest variable is the terminal. That's where I think we need that. We got to go spend a little bit of money with Park Hill and MA Plus to figure out the art of the possible to help you guys. Because are we talking a $750,000 project where you're spending half of that? What's half of 375? So are you spending 375, or are you spending 750, half of $1.5 million? And what do you get for the 375 versus the 750 versus the 525 if we're going to pick a middle option? That's what, because we've never done it, we just don't know. We can't even give you a best guess at this point in time as to what it would be. And so that's where I would recommend getting some kind of dollars to actually go do a scoping study, essentially is what it is, to help us evaluate what the art of the possible is. So if you can give us, that range of values, the maximum range you want to spend on the terminal and the minimum range you want to spend on the terminal. And then we'll kind of figure out from there as to what options we can go work with. That's the biggest factor. It's the biggest unknown at that point in time, at this point in time.
And on the 95.5 projects, you could have a significant change in total project cost, but our local match is 5%. If you go from $1 million project to a $2 million project on any of those 95.5, you might have a $2 million project, but 5%, you're only at $100,000. You know, and you double the scope of your project. You double your cost, but you significantly increase your output. You know, I don't know, is there maxes on those?
I mean, reasonable maxes, yes. It's all based on the available budget that we have. And like I said, I can commit to reasonably doing the parking lot, the fence, the utilities. If you're talking about $10 million worth of investment, I probably don't have that sitting around for Alva right now.
9 be all right?
But 9 might make it, yeah. But you know, if in totality, you know, if the fence and the parking lot, and the utilities is going to be $1 million, and it ends up being 2, we can figure that out. Maybe it means we have to do it over a couple different years instead of all in one chunk, but we can figure that out. If it goes from $1 million to $8 million, then that's going to be a little bit of a problem. May have to figure out a scope, but I don't think those projects are the challenge. I think the challenge is going to be this terminal building and figuring out what we, because that's the big local match.
The terminal building, I think, from a redesign standpoint, I think that's going to probably present us more challenges to try to figure out than building a new building.
Well, I think we need to decide what it is we want to change, or make an addition to, before anything else.
Because I think we've got some visioning we need to do, because I mean, hell, drive in here and tell me where the front door is to our terminal. I mean, we've got some issues that if we're going to do this, we would love for this to be a solution to some of those things.
Right, well, that's true with any of these projects.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we got water leaks all over this airport right now that we need to address.
Well, terminal's going to cost us more than any of the rest of it.
No, I understand, but
Probably combined. All the rest of these things, the local match is going to be far less than what we spend on the terminal.
And what I would say, I mean, in terms of, you know, scoping, that's where I think bringing in the architect with your engineers is going to be most helpful. But they're going to tell you what the art of the possible is for those different values. And you know, my personal opinion, just based on looking at this building, is it's got good functionality. It's got big open area here. It's got kind of a, you know, we'll call it the FBO desk here. It's got a manager's office. It's got restrooms. It's got pilot's lounge. But what it doesn't have is that flow-through element in that, you know, beautiful west-facing side that people can come in and hang around. You know, you can lounge in here. It's great. But where's the opportunity for people to come look at the high-arching windows? I wish, personally, this room here was flip-flopped and the high wall was over here and you could just throw windows on it and call it great. So one of the thoughts I had was this building stays, you know, here, and then on the north end of the building, you have kind of your flow-through. That becomes the entrance. You have on the east side your doors, west side doors, kind of a flow-through. I don't know if you've ever been to the Muskogee Airport terminal.
yeah.
We were just there, that's why it's on top of my mind. But basically, it's that thing. You have on the very north end of the terminal, you have the flow-through area. On the east side, parking lot, land side, everybody comes in. Air side doors on the west side, and then everything south of that kind of vestibule area, kind of that open entry area, is all of the meat and potatoes of the terminal building, which would be this area here. And the meat and potatoes would be, you know, your conference room, your pilot's lounge, your airport manager offices, your FBO front desk. And so that's what I would recommend. And then obviously adding in some exterior architectural elements to beautify the exterior of the terminal from mostly the air side, but then a little bit from the land side as well. And then obviously renovating everything that you have here from floor to restrooms to conference room, so on and so forth. And like I said, you can do some of that. I would say the minimum you'd have to invest would be $750 to get some of those things done. And I wouldn't invest anything more than $150 because at that point in time, you might as well be better off building a brand new terminal. And so I would say somewhere in that $750 to $1.5 million range is where I would put my investment number for the expansion and remodel of the terminal building. And see if MA Plus and Park Hill can give you 3 different options. obviously it's not gonna be final design, it's all gonna be, theoretical, art of the possible kinds of things. But you'll take some of those things that they present you and go, oh, yeah, I'd like that, let's go down the pathway of $1 million project and try and get these things done. That's, I think, how the skull session would go once you get those folks on board to get some of this done. But I do think we need a visioning session for some of that. And honestly, I would, if I were you, volunteer someone that's got an airplane that can carry 4 or 5, 6 people and go around the state. See what you like of the terminal buildings that are out there. Hit up Enid, Grove, Durant, Ada.
Can we take your King Air?
Can't have non-state. If you want to join my team, we'll get you a ride. Then the city might be a little mad at me. But
Okay.
Hey, you have to post that for me.
so, and then obviously the other that's the architecture stuff is more about the 3D elements of one, what the vertical aspects look like, and a little bit of the 2D layout of the rooms and the flow of the building. But the other big thing I think we need from a 2D layout is kind of the ingress egress from parking lot. Where's the parking lot going to go? Where are the fence lines going to go? What's going to be a beautiful fence, and what's going to be just your standard fence, and kind of go from there. So obviously from what you're going to have with people envisioning around, the terminal area, and 1,000 foot that way and 1,000 foot that way is going to be your nice pretty fence, and then the rest of the fence would be probably not your nice painted fence. It would just be your standard fence. And like I said, it doesn't have to go around the whole airport. We just want to get the east side so that we can block. It's almost like trying to herd deer.
So that would be your priority then, just the highway frontage?
Yeah, just the highway frontage on the east side of the airport. Obviously, if there's a wildlife issue out here that I don't know about, happy to talk about more fence all around the rest of the airport. But it's kind of like we're trying to deal with the deer issue at an airport. The deer love to go from west to east on the airport, and we can't at this point in time either afford or really fence in the whole airport. So we're just going to fence one side, and deer are creatures of habit. If they're trying to go west to east and the fence is in the way, they're going to go down one side of the fence and then just head that way. And so we're going to just give that a try and see if that's going to solve our issue. And I happen to give human a little more credit than deer. I don't think we'll have an issue of a human driving all the way down the fence and deciding, I want to come onto the runway just for the sake of it. But my hope is that if we can just fence the east side, that would solve all of our potential ingress and egress challenges. And there's going to have to be gates. I understand there's going to have to be plenty of gates to ensure that you guys have proper access. So I get it. We're going to have to make sure that those gates, and that's going to put a little more burden on the airport manager, making sure those gates are operational on a regular basis. That and maybe if there's a business that wants to have if there's a business out there that has a public crowd that comes to their business and they want that outside the fence, we can work at that potential. It might be a civil engineering design challenge, but we can work on that potential to figure out how could we get potentially the public to come to that business without having to come inside the fence and give the code to everybody.
I'll say anything.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and enlightening us in all this. There's a lot of other parameters we have to consider.
Yeah.
We need to figure out exactly what we want to do and what it's going to do to us financially, and decide what's priority financially wise, and go forward from there.
Gotcha.
So appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to
Glad to have you.
Happy to help. And like I said, I think the next thing I would recommend is we can have Park Hill get in contact with MA Plus. They know I'm working with them on other projects, and develop a scope for whatever your next meeting would be. I think that would be the most beneficial for all of these conversations to move forward.
We may not use MA plus, usually we've been using easily, the city has. So
Okay.
we May use easily out of Enid.
Well, we haven't done it in buildings and so on.
Okay, well, anyway,
Forget what you just,
decision hasn't been made yet.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, like I said, it's obviously your engineer of records, the contract would run through Park Hill, but whoever you want Park Hill to partner with on an architectural basis, they kind of need some guidance from you all as to, MA plus, certainly they've done other aviation terminals. I probably wouldn't recommend anybody that hasn't been in the aviation business before. It's a steep learning curve.
yeah, my daughter's done several schools
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
So,
So what I think what you guys, if you can, got the hangar going, if you can help us understand the terminal budget, and then, the other elements that we'll try and again, like I said, timing, let's try maybe to get all these things done in a 4-year window, if that's at all possible, to get it done within that time frame. So, and then like I said, if we want to do a second round of hangars, this isn't just a one and done on the hangars. If we want to go do some smaller hangars in year 4, we can go do some smaller hangars in year 4. Happy to do that.
okay,
So,
thank you.
absolutely. Any other questions, burning thoughts? I can answer.
Well, I'm sure I'll have some tomorrow.
I'm always available.
to put together just a list of some of the newer construction, for those of us that want to kind of fly there and burn some gas to get there.
Yeah, the new terminal buildings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Send to Derek.
we can get you a list. I mean, I'll just tell you right off the top of my head the ones I'd go visit. Durant, Ada. Ada's my favorite architectural look, personally. Shawnee had a good look when it was standing. Thank you, Mother Nature.
It was
Gro-
insured.
What?
Surely it was insured.
Not for near enough.
But these are all new builds.
Yeah, these are all new builds. Yeah. So,
Weatherford's really nice.
yeah, Weatherford's nice. And we'll send you some renderings of some of the ones that are going up right now, because we got some really good ones going up. But yeah, I would say Durant, Ada, Grove are my 3 favorite standing terminal buildings today.
Okay.
And then we've got some really cool ones coming up that are in development. So
And you've not yet done a remodel?
no, we have not. And honestly, the reason why we haven't done a remodel is we haven't gotten to a terminal building of this age. Everything we've been doing so far was built back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And obviously those are all coming down and getting replaced, brand new, fresh. So we've not dealt with a terminal building of this age to go expand and remodel. But we are starting to get into those conversations. We've had some conversations with some other folks that have terminal buildings that are in the 20, 30, 40-year-old era to get them renovated and expanded.
This is a nice building, nice looking building, but the designer wasn't aviation oriented.
Yes. That is what we have found out in a lot of our buildings. And honestly had been some of the struggle we had when we first started doing terminal projects with some architects. If they didn't have aviation backgrounds and had done terminal buildings previously, it could be a little tough to get them to understand how aviation flow is supposed to happen. So, but yeah, no, happy to, and do we want to have another conversation at some point after the turn of the year, or when is your next, when's your next meeting that you could approve a scope of work for kind of this skull planning session that we're talking about?
Well, I think we need to have a meeting just to hash out what we think we want to
Okay,
do, if anything,
okay,
before we make any of those kind of decisions.
okay.
That's my opinion. Because there's still some parameters here I'm a little unsure of.
Okay.
So we're looking at February, maybe.
We have regular meetings the second Monday of every month. We can have special meetings anytime as well. So I think we can be nimble as soon as we have plans that are, things that we can look at and make decisions. I think we can be nimble.
Okay.
Well, we are running into time concerns on some of these grants?
Well, like I said, the hangar is moving forward because you guys have done geotech. And have they had the survey crews out here, or is it just geotech that's been drilled?
So far, I just, Geotech's just been out here.
Just
They
been
were
out
just here a couple days ago.
A couple days ago, okay. But the challenge is we need some kind of commitment from, like I mentioned to you earlier, some kind of commitment from the city on these other projects to ensure that we're ready, willing, and able to do the hangar project. So, you know, the hangar design is going to be done come May and get bid out in June, theory. And we would need some kind of commitment from the city on some of these other projects and elements ahead of that. And so you know, I would imagine that MA Plus and Park Hill can churn out some concepts in a couple of months. But just if you start looking back from that, you know, we kind of need to go, we would kind of need you guys to consider a scope to approve that contract at probably a January meeting, so they can have that couple months to plan. We can get back together in March and move forward. That also lines up with our ACP deadline, which we go out, we have our public, our projects get announced to the public in March, and then our commission approves them at the May meeting. So that would work in line with that element as well. So that's, if you guys could have some of those conversations, and if Park Hill could come to you at their January meeting with a scope for this school session, I think that would be the timeline I would recommend to ensure that we meet the FAA deadlines, ensure that we're able to get a commitment from the city on doing the slate of projects over the 4-year window to move everything forward. So I don't know if you guys could call a special meeting to have some of your, you know, discussion elements between now and Christmas, or the first part of January. It's all something to think about and consider.
We will do that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, or,
I think we'll hit the
the road.
airwaves,
okay.
see if Wiley Post is better or worse than it was when I last checked. Check the loss.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Good seeing you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. Yeah. Appreciate it again. Good seeing you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. He's hiding back here.
I'm Heather, good to meet Heather, good to Nancy.
Okay. We'll go on to the next item, reports from staff, city council report.
I don't have anything unless you guys have any questions.
When do you think they will have new dumpsters placed?
Are we ready? I think so.
Is that the first of the year? I think so.
I don't have an estimate on that. Steve would have a better idea. I don't know if Heather would have a better idea, but I don't have an estimate on
You
that.
already asked her.
I was saying, they did run out of dumpsters, and they had to order more, and the shipment just got here today. So they are delivering, they unloaded them all today, and they will be delivering for the rest of the week. I do know that.
I don't have anything else on the city.
What was that, Bill? Would you like for me to keep us going? Okay. How about your report, Eric?
November November started off slow, but it kicked off there towards the end. We had a total of $43,542.75 in fuel sales. The survival flight's been going pretty strong. They've been averaging anywhere from 3,500 to 5,500 a month in fuel sales. Our jet traffic picked up there towards the end. It's really picked up at the beginning of this month. In the 8 days, we are at, the 8 days of this, or I guess 9 days of this month, we're already at 23,000 in fuel sales. And I mean, that matches January 24th, or January of 24, our lowest month of sales, so this month's already been pretty good. The tank for this above ground fuel form, I got an update from Victor today. The tank is complete and being shipped hopefully this week to them. We're waiting on a couple of parts. He'll begin putting it together and anticipates it being complete and having the tank installed in mid-February. So, still a couple months away.
Why are they running behind? Why are they running behind?
Well, they said it was going to be up to 20 weeks or so. It's not really behind, it's just taking forever. They said it could anywhere from that time period to 20 weeks, and it's taking the latter part. So I don't know if that's going to be everything running and installed by mid-February with the QT pod and everything else, or if the tank's just going to be installed and they got to do all this other shit. Try to get better. The better deal for next month. I would have had it the other last week, but I was emailing Toby, and Toby's out for paternity leave. I guess he just had another report, so I emailed Craig instead, so he got it for me. Just trying to think of anything else. I was told at the beginning of the month, or the end of last month, that they were going to start working on these water things. They have not, so.
Just some other water needs to probably go back forever.
Probably. Ours are going to be, well, the one that really concerns me was the one under the apron, or share, that can turn into a concrete road. Also, with, so, other than that, we've just been kind of,
You haven't heard anything else about the solar farm?
okay.
Where are we at on the advertising of Freightliner?
I don't really know. That's
Who's in charge of it?
well, Steve was working with the water department. We're still, I guess, trying to figure out.
So last meeting, you said they weren't going to be able to use it.
Have they,
So
Yeah,
there was to be advertised and sold somewhere.
I should put it on an auction.
so has it been advertised?
I'm pretty sure because he had to sign up with the auction company. We're going to do the same thing with that auction company. We're going to do with the trash trucks and, EMS vehicles and a whole bunch of stuff or something. So,
Do you know which auction company?
I don't right off the top of my head, but if you call tomorrow, we'll let you know.
Okay. So nothing is happening yet, is what I'm being told. And you said earlier, we don't know when the taxi light project is going to start.
they've not updated. That one said they would probably, with the temperatures, would be waiting until spring. Start March or April.
So I see you're advertising for part-time help.
Yes. Susie's graduated college and is moving on. So she's,
We need the part-time help during the winter.
I mean, it's kind of nice to have the weekends so we're not.
I mean, there's 2 full-time, right?
Yeah.
We can't stagger.
We can, but
Because last, when we did our budget, you mentioned at that time that you had thought about going seasonal because you weren't sure you have enough work during the winter for full-time.
yeah. I mean, finding out that there is work.
I can't hear you.
Yeah. I'm just saying that we're finding out now that there is work to be done, so we don't have any shortage.
The rural water district has made a mess down here at their building. They hauled in dirt with concrete and asphalt in it. Has anybody said anything about that, or what are their plans? Are they just gonna leave it a mess? You know, inundated? Okay, well, they've got a pile, like I say,
What is it?
they've got piles of concrete and dirt with asphalt in it and stuff. The pump building,
Oh, all the way down.
yeah, the mile line.
So just gotta put it there.
So I didn't know if they were, it's been there for, I don't know, a couple of months or something.
Yeah, I noticed it at the end of mowing season.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions for the manager? If not, we'll go on to the next item, number 6, remarks and inquiries by airport commission members. We kind of covered that. We
Pretty much.
Okay.
You know, he touched on the liability. You know, I've been trying to get my head around it a little bit. I know that any place I ever have flown into has always had a fence. I mean, I just can't ever remember flying, unless it's some really, really tiny little place. And, you know, and so, but with the fence not here, you just don't think about it. But then, you know, we started seeing pictures of big buses driving away after turning around that Derek shared with us. And, you know, if I was a transient pilot, if I flew into here and someone ran into my plane, I mean, I'd be livid. I'd be beside myself with anger.
Deal.
You know what I mean? And so I can really feel for, you know, the risk that some of these transient guys are coming in here. They don't even know that they're taking, and they maybe don't think about it, maybe they don't. But to me, it's, you know, I think it's a foregone conclusion that something needs to be done as far as limiting access from folks that don't know what they're driving to.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good idea to limit access. You know, I don't like the idea of a big chain link fence to make it look like a prison, but, you know, he said this area we can have a more of a pleasant looking rail fence or something that.
Or even just black chain link looks a lot better than the galvanized stuff.
Yeah. So, anyway, it was good to have them up. You know, it seems like we've been running forward on these projects kind of blindly. Like, you know, I don't have any idea of how much money we've got committed already. You know, to the tank and to the taxi overlay and some things. And I think it was good to have him there. Our Grayson Artie's here to kind of give us his ideas, and we can have a meeting or two and figure out exactly what we can afford and what our priorities are and go forward with it. So.
Yeah, I can, that hangar will be used more than a lot of people think.
Yeah, but yeah. Grayson's been dealing with the larger airports with more traffic. We need to consider that too. I mean, he's pro building the hangar, and using the funds that's available to him, but we need to make sure that it's feasible for us and that we can afford it.
It's good to hear though that, their focus is on that, not on just some win, but actual,
Yeah.
talk that they're receiving from, business entities out there that are looking for, options rather than just continuing to pay high prices elsewhere.
Right.
So that was something that was kind of eye-opening to me. I wasn't really considering the hangar for that sort of option, but I guess if once you build it, you have the option. If you don't build it, you don't have the option.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? If not, we'll go on to the next item. Number 7, remarks and inquiries by citizens. And we don't have any, so we'll go on to the next item until adjourned.